Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're jumping down into the world of Vechain, taking a look at what's been going on most recently, what we would expect to happen next and all of that wonderful stuff. As we get into the video, you guys know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and join us in Discord. Links are in the description below. Guys, let's get into it. So Vechain paired up with USDT here. We're on the hourly chart and Binance is our data source. We're seeing a moment of volatility just here at the point of recording this. So this is about an hour and a half out from when this went live. And you know, we've got some interesting kind of structures going on here as well as our downside. Now, our low end expectations were actually all the way down here at this 2.475 through to about as low as 2.410. However, we've actually moved up higher and we've also moved down lower. So there's a couple of interesting kind of points here. Now, we could be still inside wave 4 under an expanding flat correction or something to that effect. And in which case we would have to take our low point over to, our high point up to the recent high and our low point over to this low point over here, and then we'll be able to map out where, you know, our fifth wave may go next, which will be somewhere in this kind of range between 2.372 and 2.450. However, there's a couple of other alternatives to this as well, and probably worth noting on this video is that maybe our fifth wave was just short. Maybe our fifth wave is just down here and just failed to hit our expectations of what we'd expect of a fifth wave between the 1.236 and the 1.618. This is also possible. And so therefore it's important that we kind of reflect on that. Okay, so what we've got to do is we've got to see what's going on here. We've got a couple of options, right? If it was an expanding flat, we'll be looking for 5 waves up, but we have too much overlap to kind of really make that a viable option. So I think that's less and less likely that what we're actually having here is an expanding flat correction, and it's more and more likely that this actually is just our low point for our fifth wave, meaning that we can slowly work our way back up. Okay, we can see that moment of volatility just here has brought our stochastic RSI on our hourly chart back to the oversold area. So we are looking for a move to the upside. However, on that note, it's probably worth noting that Bitcoin here is a slightly different journey. It is obviously pulling back down and it is still lowering its stochastic RSI. So if Bitcoin decides to pull back a little bit further, then we would expect obviously that Vechain would follow suit and do something very similar, and it would continue this moment to the downside and stay in this oversold area, or just move up ever so slightly without doing too much price movement, come back to the overbought area, then continue moving down. Now on the slightly larger time frame with the 4 hourly, we're nice and high in this overbought area, so again leaning us into our expecting price movement to the downside. The same is for the 8 hour, and these time frames are telling us that we should be expecting some downward price pressure, whereas when I take a look at it from the hourly, we see the opposite. So if we're going to be assuming some small volatility on the hourly chart, essentially that's what I expect it to be, a small amount of volatility. Now we are still looking for this typical high point of around 2.857, and again that's going to be kind of one of the expectations that I have. We could go up higher than this to 3.254 under a more aggressive pumping action. Okay, however, I don't think there's very much chance of going too high, and I have higher hopes around the 2.857 before we actually pull back down in a more significant way. But the key here is to really watching out what that stochastic RSI is doing on the 4 and 8 hour charts. Okay, the daily is actually progressive. It could move quite high, but it could also stay down in the oversold area that it is right now. The key to me really is what happens with the 4 hour and 8 hour stochastics as to whether or not we can see those drop down and move back up rapidly, and taking the daily with them. Alternatively, you know, we could obviously just have a really slow grind to the downside, and basically we have a much deeper correction. But at some point I do think we have to have a significant bounce here for Vechain, specifically so all the way up here at 3.3, and now we're down here at 2.6. Now essentially I am looking at much more deeper kind of progression in terms of Vechain's price, but for now really we should be thinking there's going to be some kind of small drop and then some kind of larger surge to the upside, in my opinion. Obviously September is going to be a super bearish month, so we have to be a little bit cautious with that, but for the most part, you know, that's kind of my expectations. Let's see if we can map out what's going on here though, because at the moment we have a couple of really clear kind of volatile movements. We get a lot of overlap, so we have a pretty strong move here we pulled back down and we bounced right back up, creating this area. Then we pulled back down here, and then we continued this journey. And there's not really a good, clear, definitive direction within this range either, but it does look like we have 3 up, 3 down, and maybe 3 up here. And it could be that actually we continue this motion to the upside before we actually have our correction. And we could be looking at maybe 2.752 just up here within a 3-wave structure. So let me just grab hold of this, show you what I mean. Is we kind of move here, we bounce down here, then we start to move back up again. And then inside here, we would have another kind of 3-wave structural move that might be able to take us up there as well, right? There's kind of a lot of nested things kind of going on here for VeChain. But essentially what this is telling us, regardless to kind of the bigger macro picture, is that this here, this move from our low point of about 2.498, this here is all corrective. It's corrective because it's overlapping. It's not setting a trend. It's not a definitive trend in any direction. So we have that to understand that this, whatever this move is going up, is going to be short-lived, and it is not going to be sustained. Not in the same way that we had this trend to the downside here, okay? So this could all just be a 4th wave. We just can't see it. For example, that could still be wave 3. This could be wave 4. We could still pull back into wave 5. There's so many different ways we can kind of look at it. And what we really need to do is we need to see what happens with our 4-hour and 8-hour charts as to whether or not we are going to see, you know, that significant drop to the downside before we get the bounce, or this is the actual bounce and we're moving up towards our ranges here between 2.8 and 3.2. And once they're in, then we can drop down afterwards. So there's not really a long-term bullish sentiment within this. And there's definitely a lot more kind of bearish stuff going on, but there's definitely short-term bull within this, and we need to kind of capitalize in on that because it's not a small move for VeChain. If we were to just move up towards this area, you're talking 23%. If we want to move up here, you're talking 8.5% from the current price as well. So there's definitely significant room to the upside, but a little bit of caution should also be applied here. We're not going straight to the moon. Nothing moves in straight lines, and we should be prepared for some kind of volatile movements over the next few days, in my opinion. Guys, I'm going to leave this one there. If you have found it useful and informative, you know what to do. Join us in Discord as well. Ask us any questions you want down there, and join us on the live streams tomorrow morning as well. Guys, have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one.